Good to see you.
Good, dude.
It's
It's
a
an
good transition. Very nice.
absolute pleasure. No, I try and make it as seamless as possible. We make it. It's a beautiful experience to be on the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to maintain a healthy level of caffeination and just having a one more cup of coffee to get me there. So,
How
but
many
it's
how
good. Yeah.
many cups are we on today? Are we on three, four, five?
This is my like fourth one. I
I'm
think
a
I overslept last night. I was like 10 hours, so it was a little bit too much, I think.
I'm a big yerba fan. I've got the coffee today because it's I'm coming back from Poland, and so like my mind is
Yeah.
fried. But like yerba mate, it's seriously good. I got to get you on that stuff.
I've heard it's good. Like I've only ever tried like my friend was on it like a few years ago. It's very strong, right? It's like a lot of caffeine,
Really
right?
strong,
Yeah.
but the high, like the caffeine high is longer.
Yeah.
It's less of a spike, and you just live in this rose tinted world that everyone wants to live in.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's a yeah, caffeine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug. We keep it legal for a reason. Look, I have been waiting for this for such a long time. You do so much, it seems, and you're an early investor in so many amazing companies. Uh, Chief of staff at DataCrunch right now. We had Alexander on the show on Saturday from the marketing, VP, head
Cool.
of marketing or VP of marketing. You're a pre-seed investor in Lovable. You did super normal as well. There's probably a couple of others that I'm missing. Dude, how do you find these guys so early?
I mean, we're an early stage investor in the Nordics and the Baltics, and so basically it's up to us to make sure we speak to like most companies coming out of here. So honestly, we just speak to a huge amount of founders, and I think it's less about like making sure that you find people, and it's more about making sure that you are close to the right people, so that you choose. It's more, I guess, it's more about the filter rather than about the net, so to say.
Okay, I think the one that comes top of mind is the one I've got to talk about, right? You bet on Lovable from an early stage was it through byFounders or was it just an angel check?
Yeah, from through byFounders.
Through
So byFounders led the pre-seed. Yeah.
so through byFounders. Why I think hindsight's 2020, so you can sort of see why. But at that stage, when you invested that first check, what did you see there? Like, except for Anton, telling the vision, what else did you see about why this company was the right bet to make?
Honestly, I mean, Anton has obviously got a very cool background. He's very smart. He was a personal friend of mine as well before we invested
That
and
helps.
after we invested, which helps, yeah. And I met Fabian after Fabian became a founder, so with Anton. I think honestly, it wasn't so much. I mean, obviously Anton and Fabian are incredible founders, but I honestly do think that it was mostly coming down to the vision and being early to seeing where AI is going. So like Anton spun out GPT Engineer as a side project when he was still founder at Depict and the CEO of Depict or CTO of Depict, and it was basically like the first kind of repo or one of the first repos that kind of showed what you could do if you put an LLM into an agentic loop where you had a high level task and it had to like iterate on like actions to try and accomplish that task,
Mhm.
and it was then built to make kind of software things, so like small apps. And it was like pretty bad, but it got a lot of virality very fast because it was such a cool idea, this concept of kind of identifying an LLM. And so that experience, I think, I'll Anton see like what would be possible if the LLMs got good enough to make these loops good and these agents type good. So that was kind of the vision. Like, so he came with a vision, very much from day one. It was build the last piece of software, and he didn't know how long it would take until the LLMs were good enough, but he thought they would be at some point. And what mattered would be, in the meantime, figuring out the UX that would be needed to kind of make something like this, and all the kind of kludge code you need to write on the side to manage like infrastructure and make the UX good, and like all the loops that you need for QA, that kind of stuff.
It truly is the darling of Europe and also the darling of like any of these products that are building in a similar space, right? Lovable feels like it's leaps and bounds above everyone when it comes to just the design.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's very good. I think there's definitely like some good competitors that are close, right? I think the thing that Lovable is always focused on, which is a little bit different from like the two closest competitors, Bolt and Replit, is that Lovable has always been focused on the non-developers. Like, there's plenty of developers use it, especially if they want to get rid of like front-end type code that they don't want to have to write themselves. But Replit and Bolt both pivoted into this space from developer-facing products, and so you naturally have a more technical angle. And I think that that's like, it makes sense in the short term. I think most of the people that want to pay for this type of product is probably going to be technical at some level, but the large market and the one that Lovable is going after is the one that's not technical, the non-developed market, the 90% of 99% of the population.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like, it's every all of them seem to be converging on the non-technical user, whilst having
Mm.
like the ability in Lovable is kind of building backwards towards the technical capability. Just feels like the right play, and it's going to be a $1 trillion company with the way that it's being built.
Let's see. Let's hope.
Well, let's hope.
That's
I need
yeah.
that fund returner. I'd love to ask. It must have felt amazing, being a friend and being able to write a check in, and like one that has turned into a 200 million Series A that values the company bigger than $1 billion. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, it was very like it was also very fast, right? So like, things kind of just took yeah, it was just an insane speed that everything happened at. So it's like 11 months now since they actually launched the company like
Hmm.
publicly. So they had a closed beta up until like slush last year, which was middle of November. And that's kind of when they launched publicly the first time in turn on monetization, and things are just growing like crazy. And I think that like all the way along that curve, it has felt like, oh my god, things are going so well, like it's going so crazy. We should probably like raise now, in case things stop going so well. And they've done 2 fundraisers so far, and that hasn't stopped. So
Hmm.
like the feeling kind of continues in some sense. So, but obviously it feels very, very good and fun. It's like, yeah, it's very intense. The team has worked unbelievably hard. It's the most hardworking team I've ever met. So it's very well deserved. They're very much like earning their success. But yeah, obviously, I don't know what else to say. Honestly, it's been fun. It's been a crazy journey. Very surreal. As a VC as well, it sets a very like intense high watermark for how good a company can be and how fast a company can
Have
grow.
you
Right.
have you peaked too early as a
Yeah,
VC?
exactly. I think a lot about this. Yes, like, does it even make sense to continue trying to find some company that's going to grow as fast? Like, it'd be yeah. Obviously, I think most good companies do not do as well as quickly as Lovable does, and I think that doesn't make them bad companies. So I'm still keen for investing in companies that grow slower than Lovable.
Why
But yes.
why do you think deeply about it? Is it because it's like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do it again? Or is it more like, I don't know if I've got it in me to do it again?
I mean, a friend of mine asked me like literally like what would the next step be? Like what do you do now? Do you want to find another Lovable and like become legendary, some kind of thing? Because I mean, like one company like this is mostly a fluke, right? It is like it's mostly a matter of that I was lucky at the right time at the right meeting the right people, right? It's not. I reflected a lot on the fact that it's not. There's nothing inherent in the like whatever, like there's basically no skill involved in some sense in taking this bet. There's a lot of other people that would have taken this bet too, that weren't in the right spot in the right time. So the only way that I would be able to prove to some myself in some sense that there was anything like skill there involved would be to find another one. So I guess that is kind of what I need to do. But at the same time, I don't want to feel like my life was a failure if I don't find another Lovable, right? So in some sense, I have to also just come to terms with the fact that like universe bestowed this on me on some level. It was a luck of the draw, and I'm happy that happened. And maybe I hope I find other companies that are also successful, even if they're not as successful as Lovable.
In the spirit of serendipity, I'd love to ask, how did you find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting Anton and just being friends with him?
Yeah, so I mean, we met via like a few mutual friends that were also kind of broadly in the effective altruist community, like rationalist kind of community. So, like a friend of mine, ex-colleague
What is
from
that?
Sydney, BCG. So yeah, so let me tell you. So like, I mean, so rationalism is like this thing that started out in a forum called Less Wrong, founded by a guy called Eliza Yudkowsky, is quite famous now, and Robin Hanson is a professor, and they basically had this forum that was originally was called Overcoming Bias. I think they had a blog together, and then they made this forum Less Wrong, which was like a place to kind of talk about how to kind of de-bias your mind and the way of thinking to kind of get at the truth in an effective way. So, and Eliza Yudkowsky wrote a bunch of articles that are now being called the sequences. It sounds very cultish, but it's a good cult. They're called the sequences, which is about like how to kind of think in a rational way. Kind of the way to think about it, he puts it like this: that like if you were to wake up in a universe where like some fundamental things about the universe had changed compared
Hmm.
to the current universe, what methods of thinking would you need to adopt in order to notice those changes quickly? So like, how would you be able to use methods of thinking that will converge on truth, no matter what the truth ends up being, if that makes sense?
I have absolutely no idea. Can you share?
I mean, I think it's a very hard problem. And I think it's an unsolved problem in some sense. He has a lot of articles that write. I highly recommend them. Called The Sequences. There's a bunch of articles talking through this. It's like kind of figuring out your cognitive biases.
And so he like is the in the articles,
Probabilistic
does he give you an answer, or is it like he just helps you think through what it might be for you?
It gives no, it's not. I think this is an objective thing. This is not a subjective thing. Like I think this is a philosophical like theory of mind and logic answer to this. And I think there is an answer, but I think that the answer is like to some extent probabilistic. So it comes down a lot to like Bayesian thinking around probabilities, thinking like what is increased, like what am I seeing in the world that increases my evidence for or probability weighting for or against different hypotheses, that kind of thing. So yeah, very like. Very logical, very mathematical, very computer sciencey. So since then, obviously, Eliezer Yudkowsky became very famous for, most recently, he wrote a book called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies, which I'm actually currently reading. You might have seen this. And so that's kind of about the whole AI doom prophesizing thing. So a lot of the people in the effective altruist community, which came out of the rationalist and less wrong forums, apologies for the rant here, those kind of things are all downstream from this forum, including effective altruism. Effective altruism is the idea of trying to do as much good as possible in the world with charity, and thinking very optimizingly around that. Like, how do you optimize the amount of good you can do in the world, kind of per dollar spent on charity? And so Anton thinks a lot about this, as does a few other friends that are kind of in the same group.
I like it. I guess that makes a lot of more sense why he's, I think the pay package a couple of weeks ago, someone wrote an article around how he's like said that half his net worth is going to be given away to charity, or he's going to be invested in certain projects.
Yeah.
I love
he was
that.
on a panel here in Stockholm, like just after I was also on a panel, and right after me, he was being interviewed on stage, and the journalist asked him about this, and he said that he was going to donate 50% of the proceeds he kept from Lovable to charity, and his co-founder Fabian will do this too. So
that's pretty incredible. Is man, it's so cool that you were like so early in something that is going to possibly change the way that we interact with the web. Do you think about that?
It's cool. It's very cool to be close to this. Like it's pretty crazy, right? Like yeah, it's a wild thing. Like, I mean, and it's gone very quickly, and it's been a very intense and weird journey, right? Like, I mean, I helped interview and like close most of the candidates for the first like 20 that were there. And so I know a lot of these people, right? And now they're doing like some very insane things and meeting some insane people, right? Like they're meeting like the top tech people in the world in San Francisco, like last week, Jensen Huang and some Altman and stuff like this. So it's cool. Like, yeah, the world has gone a lot closer to Stockholm because of this company, I think.
And I think that's amazing, right? And what I'd love to ask, and I know you've got some thoughts on this, is like, why does it have this really, really, really high value talent density in Stockholm right now, or just across the Nordics as well?
Why? I think that I think there's like I think there's kind of a boring, like, skeptical answer to that, and there's also like a more hype-driven. I think the hype-driven answer is basically that there's lots of. I think there's legitimately, long history of very cool companies being built in Stockholm.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that one, right?
And so there's a lot of good people. There's also a lot of good people that have moved here because of the early companies that were being built here. I think the kind of more skeptical and like down to earth answer is that ultimately you don't need that many fantastic people in order to build these types of companies. Lovable is like close to 100 now. That's not that many people in a city of 1 million, or like basically I think of Stockholm being less of a city of 1 million as more of a city of 10 million, because the best people in Sweden will mostly move to Stockholm if they're good at tech. So it's indirectly a city of 10 million, and I think even more indirectly, a lot of the world would probably like to move to Stockholm if they had opportunity, and so we get a lot of the smartest immigrants in the world moving to Stockholm. So I'd say that Stockholm is maybe a city of like probably like maybe 90 to 100 million, I'd say, like in some sense. We get the filtered top echelon of people from roughly 100 million people that come here. I think San Francisco is a city of like maybe 1.5 billion, roughly. Like most of the US that's good at tech would move to the SF, and a significant fraction of like India, China, large parts of Asia, and large parts of Europe would move to the US, to San Francisco specifically. So San Francisco doesn't have an advantage there. But back to the down to earth point, you don't need that many people to build a fantastic company, even if they're top echelon. And we have enough in Stockholm to do so. And by doing so, we can attract even more people.
I think it's absolutely incredible the ability of like not only the hiring that they've done inside of these like all of these companies, like not just Lovable, but like Tandem Health, Lagora, Lovable as well, and like these super high agency, maybe former founders. One of the things I've noticed is like not churn, but you when you get these people in a room together and they start building what is going to be generational products, like they end up having ideas and leaving and going building their own, right? Like you're
Yes.
seeing this happen right now, just across the board. It's not specific to one company. Do you think about that and then sort of like understanding like, oh, if that person goes, there's an opportunity to invest there. Let me build a relation, or like I already have this pre-existing relationship. And so it ends up becoming like a PayPal mafia type situation, or maybe a SpaceX mafia, and we're going to get this Nordic Silicon Valhalla mafia coming out soon.
I think that'd be cool. I mean, for sure. Like that's kind of every VC's wet dream is to like invest in something and then the spin outs will also be worth some money. So that'd be great, obviously. And like, I want to stay close to them. Anton has an extremely good taste and talent, and so
I've heard this
the
many times. It's
yeah,
quite
so the
insane.
people he's hired, it's incredible. It's his kind of superpower. Like even Depict, which in the end of the day and didn't end up becoming like a massive company, it's still well performing, but it's like very young, and Depict already has like an insane mafia, and that's mostly because of Anton's picks and people.
Oh, it's
So
because of Anton's picks and people.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he
Ah,
most of the people downstream from. I mean, the Lagora, one of the Lagora founders, is also ex. Sorry, yeah, is also ex Depict. Tandem also ex Depict. There's a few others like
someone's going to
Magnus
do a
from.
documentary on this for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Probably like it would be a good material for documentary. Yeah.
Look, I know you and me both love space, and so we've got to talk a little bit on sci-fi right now. Like,
Good.
I haven't had the chance to read the Culture series yet. Like, it's on my list. I just need to order the damn series. But on a macro level, do you look at space as a bet that you think you'll be making? And like, how does sci-fi and the mental model of the books, the way that they build these universes that are like sort of worlds that we haven't entered into yet, either utopias or dystopians? I think there's a lot
Hmm.
of crossover between how we think and what those books end up writing. How do you think about it?
Yes, I love it. So I mean, I read a huge amount of sci-fi. It's probably like I try to read like 30 books per year, and I'd say that like 25 of those will be like sci-fi novels.
What
So
are the other
and I
five?
think sorry.
What are the other five?
There'll be like, random other ones that I've had highly recommended from other people, and some will be nonfiction. But like maybe I'll read like maybe two or three nonfiction books per year, maybe max. But I think the sci-fi books are the ones that actually help me most in investing because it gives you a point of reference for what the future could look like, as you say.
Mhm.
So like what it's like if you have an artifact in a sci-fi novel that acts in a certain way based on like possible technology that we haven't invested yet, it gives you like a little bit of like a anchor or like a waypoint for where you could go, and that creates a like place to aim for founders that want to build something, and I think that's very helpful. It also creates a point of reference to understand something. So if I'm talking to a founder and they're trying to build something, and I can say, oh, are you building this thing from this novel, and they were like, yes, that's exactly it, and I'll be like, oh, now I understand it, okay. And you suddenly leapfrog a lot of like needing to explain stuff or the reason for something and that kind of thing. So I think where space comes into that, I think, is that like there's obviously a lot of like preconditions for us to go far through space. But I think that they are in the grand scheme of things and on the long term, like inevitable. And we like, I mean, Elon Musk famously says like, we either die on Earth as a species or we do not, right? And I think and I think that's a really nice like binary resolution of what a future looks like. Either we stay here until the species gets
Or
extinct,
we become
or we do
interplanetary.
not. Exactly, or we become planetary. And I think that the secondary option is like obviously the better one, no matter like I just can't see a world in which it's not the better one. So we need to get there, and the question is mostly like how fast we can do that, and what's required to do so. So I mean, I think Elon Musk has plenty of shortcomings, but I think SpaceX is one of the best like things that he's done for the world, and he's on the way to creating something new there with Starship. But there's other startups doing this too, which is great. Personally, I'd love to like fund a precursor to a space elevator. Like I would love to
Oh,
during VC
nice.
career. Yeah, that would be my like.
And like the
I would
science
love to
behind
put
the
in the
space
next.
elevator is so real. Like it's something that
Yeah,
lives in low Earth orbit. It's like it's constantly moving around the Earth. I think that's the only bit that I haven't figured out. Right? It's that when the elevator comes down
yeah,
and the Earth is obviously spinning, it stays in
yes.
one position. How is it not going to knock over everything in its path? Are we going to have to clear buildings?
So a space elevator would actually be tethered to a certain spot on Earth, and you basically would be launching. I mean, there's other versions of this too, but the most realistic one that I can think of, which is still very unrealistic based on current material science, so we need to figure that out. But basically, you have one spot on Earth, probably near the equator, or definitely would have to be near the equator. That would basically have like a anchor for the space elevator. It would have some kind of thread going up, made of materials that we don't have yet because it has to be strong enough. And then you'll basically go out, like I think it ends up being like 4 or 5 radii of the Earth, or 4 or 5 diameters of the Earth away. You basically have an asteroid that is in constant geosynchronous orbit with the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be like basically a thread between the asteroid and Earth. And they'd be moving in tandem all the time, basically. And then you'd have
Okay. So like it's actually connected to Earth. I was thinking of from the perspective of it's just in low Earth orbit and it has a huge tether coming down, but isn't actually connected to Earth.
So I think you could, like, I know that there are versions that do that too, like in sci-fi novels. The problem with that is that like the speed at which you're moving through the atmosphere ends up being like multiple times the speed of sound,
Right.
something like that.
Which is just too
And it
much
ends up
force on the
being,
body.
yeah, too much force on the body and too much force on the material that's like gonna have to go through it. So I think it's very non-trivial to sort that out. You also have a problem if you have something that's in low Earth orbit in that way. You would basically not be gaining. You'd have to get the energy from somewhere, if that makes sense. So if you're taking something up to that you'd basically be lowering the or increasing the gravitational potential of the thing you're putting up there, and you'd be taking that gravitational potential from the thing that's in low Earth orbit, which would be so you need to have an equal and opposite like reaction. Basically, you could solve that by having one elevator going up and one going down, and maybe rocket fuel. But it would be generally easier if you do that with something that is further away and is very, very massive and is in like more of a stable orbit, basically. It doesn't require constant. It's also not being slowed down by the air, the atmosphere.
I get it. I think within that context, do you think about how like you'd have to keep it in geosynchronous orbit? Because like the space station is in geosynchronous orbit, isn't it?
Sorry, say again.
Is the space station in geosynchronous orbit, or is that just in low Earth orbit?
It would not be in low Earth orbit. It would be in geosynchronous orbit, but very far away,
right?
Like multiple diameters of the Earth away. So, I mean, it's by no means a solved thing, right? Like these things are like.
Well, we've got to get an asteroid that big.
Yes, yeah. The asteroid would not have to be massive. It would be, I mean, it would have to be the size of like a mountain-ish kind of thing. So like not crazy big, but I mean that's very big still. And you need to figure out. I actually don't know the math behind whether like at what distance it would be geosynchronous and if that distance would actually work. Like I'm actually not sure about this. But actually, when I think about it, geosynchronous satellites are very far away because I know the latency for internet using them is actually pretty bad. So probably like a few hundred milliseconds. So yeah, I need to look at the math of this clearly before making an investment.
Oh no, you could just make the bets based on the founders because you just seem to be around the greatest.
Yes, true. Yes, if I find a good founder that knows the math, then they can teach me, and I can invest in them and try and help them.
Is there a specific artifact that you continuously reference when you're talking to these incredible companies? It's like you are the X from Y. Yes,
one thing I'm very keen on finding someone to build is like the diary from the Diamond Age by Neil Stevenson. So it's called a young lady's like something companion, I think it's called. It's basically like this like book that's like an AI teacher for this young girl who's like growing up, and it basically just like teaches her through whatever medium is useful for her at her age. So like in the beginning it would just be like pictures, and then over time it teaches her how to read, and then it teaches her all the skills she kind of needs in life. And it's just knows her better than anyone else in the world, including herself. Has all the knowledge you can imagine, so very similar to an LLM in that specific respect, and is then able to tailor what she needs to know at the right moment and time, and in the way that she learns. So this kind of like perfect AI tutor for each person. Like that's an artifact I think a lot about. Yeah.
How is that not already a solved problem?
I agree. I think it is. I think the tricky part is the one where like. I think LLMs are not very good at like reading people still. Like they're not very good at like personalizing.
It's the hyper personalization.
Yes, because they've read all the internet, so they have all the language knowledge, and they have all the kind of like knowledge you need to make generic language like plans and stuff like this. But they miss the kind of thing that like a one-on-one tutor would understand if you're trying to tutor like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. You just need to read their body language very well in order to like being able to adapt to them. Like, are they feeling like do they need to go outside and have a run, or do they need to use a bathroom, or do they need like a quick win because their self-confidence has been, hurt, or like what is it they need to learn, right? That's like, it's not an easy thing for LLMs to figure that out right now, I think.
Do you think in time, though, that is actually a problem that will be solved?
Inevitable. I think someone should start building this soon now, and I think some people already have. So like, I think there'll be some cool stuff happening in the next decade here. Yeah.
Magnus, this has been an absolute pleasure. Before we let you go, I've got just one question. I love to
Sure.
ask VCs this. Who's your favorite investor?
It's a good question. Like, I think the thing about investors is that like you can't tell much about an investor unless you actually have worked with them from the founder's perspective, I think. So I think the easy answer to this would be someone whose portfolio I admire. Like, and I think there's plenty of people like this. Like, I think Founders Fund is incredible. Benchmark is obviously incredible as well. There's a lot of others. My colleagues at byFounders are incredible.
Yeah, they make some good bets.
There is some good bets, and they're also very lovely people. But I think ultimately, like, it's very hard as another VC to actually know that about another VC. I think the only people that can answer this well are the founders, because a good investor is kind of created in lots of small and private interactions. So it's really hard based on public persona.
So give me it
Sorry
from
for the evasive
byFounders.
answer. Sorry.
So give me it from byFounders.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'd say like my colleagues, like Eric, Sarah, Martin, like they're incredible individuals, but I obviously know them very well, so I know exactly how good they are, right? There's lots of other people that are good that I don't know how good they are yet.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to getting in a room with you and talking more about this. Magnus, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Same.
Thanks so much for the time. And
Thank you.
next time we talk, I will have read at least book 1 of the Culture series.
Good. Do it.
Yeah. All
You'll
right,
enjoy
man. I'll
it.
see you soon. Thanks so much for the
See you
time.
soon.